Hey kids, welcome back to Spectral Worms Horror Emporium. In tonight's tales, we have 3 break-in stories to make you lock your doors. Thank you for watching and enjoy. It was the summer of 2018. I don't remember the exact day, but it was late June. School had just ended, and I was elated to hang out with friends and relax after a tough year of grade 11. I liked being home, just like any kid, but especially because I was failing. Me and my family lived in a very small town. I'd spent my whole life there, and although I liked how quiet it was, I was pretty far from my friends. A very lonely town, mostly older residents, so you'd barely see anyone on the streets. Maybe the odd kid once in a while, but it was pretty desolate. My oldest brother had a pretty crazy girlfriend in our town, our neighbor's granddaughter. She pulled the usual manipulation tactics, and luckily, my brother didn't fall for it. He broke up with her. But that wasn't the end of her. She and her friends ended up egging our house. Dozens of eggs. Took my dad forever to clean. A few weeks later, she left back to her town, so we never got the chance to confront her. My mom was shaken, so we decided to install cameras and light motion sensors around the house. My town had the odd weirdo. This one older guy, now dead, used to stalk my mom while she was working out from her backyard fence. She'd catch him peering through the windows, and she noticed he'd go for walks every time she worked out, so she stopped. Anyway, it was June, and my brother had just gotten accepted into college to play for the team. So for about 6 days, my mom, dad, and brother went out to help him get situated. That left me and my 18-year-old brother alone in the house. My mom was fine with it, because nothing like the egging had happened in a long time. My biggest fear is home robberies. It's scary how a place you feel safe in can change in an instant. It was about 4 more days until my parents were back home, and everything was fine. Until it wasn't. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning. I was sitting on the couch in the living room, watching a movie on my laptop, being the nocturnal kid I was. The blinds were shut, so I couldn't see outside, until I noticed a white light barely beaming through them, and it was moving. Confused, I went to check through the kitchen window. My heart stopped when I saw 2 unidentifiable silhouettes with a flashlight in the back 40 shining it on the windows. I woke my brother and told him what was happening. He brushed me off, saying it was probably just people taking a nighttime walk. I believed him for a moment, but it felt off. They were pointing it at our house and not any others. I went back upstairs, and they were gone. I sighed with relief, but I wasn't going to sleep now. Half an hour later, our camera service notified me of motion in the front yard. Trembling, I checked the footage. It's just a car, I told myself, but I wish I was wrong. A white Ford slowly drove past. When I say slowly, I mean turtle slow, until it eventually passed. There's no way they're driving that slow for no reason, I thought. I showed my brother the footage. This time, he looked unnerved. "How much have they passed our house?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Only once that I knew of." He got up and locked all the doors, something we normally didn't have to do in our safe town. 20 minutes later, we were watching the windows. My brother had the backyard, I had the front. Then the Ford passed again, slowly, until it stopped dead center in front of the house. "They don't think anyone's home," I whispered. None of our cars were there. My mom didn't trust us to go anywhere while they were gone. My brother ran over, and then it happened. 3 men came out of the truck, slowly approaching. One had a pistol. My brother shoved me away from the door. "Holy fuck, we're being robbed." It terrified me because he wasn't scared of anything. I ran into the living room as I heard the back door knob rattling vigorously. My brother grabbed a kitchen knife and pulled me under the kitchen table. The house went silent. So silent, I could hear our short, panicked breaths. The front steps creaked under footsteps. A brick smashed through the front door window. My heart was in my throat. I bit my tongue so hard I drew blood to stop myself from screaming. "They're in," a deep voice said. "No one's here." The kitchen light flicked on. From under the table, I saw a man's feet. "The deck," my brother whispered. He was right. The kitchen table was right next to the deck door. 2 more men came upstairs. "Check the whole house and get back to the truck ASAP. Don't take too long," one said. When they left the kitchen, my brother quietly unlatched the deck door. "It's unlocked," he said. "Move fast." He ran out and jumped off the deck, 2 stories down. I hesitated until I heard, "What the fuck?" shouted behind me. I jumped. I landed badly, twisting my ankle. Adrenaline kept me going. We ran blindly through the back 40 until we reached a lit street, hiding in some construction outhouses until morning. About an hour later, pain hit hard. I'd been running on a broken ankle. Around 7 a.m., my brother woke me. They were gone. We called the police, but because of how remote our town was, it took a while for them to arrive. My phone, laptop, my mom's jewelry, and valuables were gone. My brother's wallet was missing, but mine wasn't. When the police arrived, they said there was nothing they could do except take me to the hospital. It didn't even make the news. Figures. This story began in March of 2017. I am a 19-year-old male. My family and I moved into this new house in March of 2017. I was really excited because the house was huge, with a beautiful garden, a pool, and a hot tub. I'm not bragging. This information will be important later. When we moved in, the real estate agent told my parents and me that there had been a series of home invasions on our street, and that our house and our neighbors were the only ones that hadn't been broken into yet. The first weird things started happening in May of 2017. My room is at the patio, so when I look out my window, I can see the patio and the hot tub. At first, I could hear the gate of our garden being opened at night. That continued for the next 10 weeks. Sometimes, we would go outside in the morning and find all the lamps smashed. Yes, 10 weeks of this, like the property was haunted by a poltergeist, since we never saw anyone doing these things. At first, we thought some burglars were opening our garden gate at night, because every morning, my parents would open the patio door so our dog could go outside to pee, while one of them got dressed for a morning walk. I guess the burglars were hoping our dog would run off, making it easier for them to enter the house. All of these incidents made my mom and me feel really unsafe in our own home. Then, all of a sudden, it stopped. So we thought whoever was doing it had moved on or gotten bored. But after 5 months, everything started all over again, only worse. In November, I woke up to footsteps outside my window. I opened my eyes, and I wished I hadn't. The moment I feared most actually happened. I saw a man, about 6 feet 3 inches, standing outside my window, watching me as I slept. He looked both old and young. His face was youthful, but his haircut made him look 25 years older. At least, that's what I could see in the dark. I was frozen. I couldn't move. We just stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Suddenly, he ran off, and I took my chance to run to my parents' room and tell them everything. My dad grabbed his gun, which he had started keeping at home because he had grown concerned over the past months. He's a police officer. He ran outside, but couldn't find the man, only a broken gate, so he called the police. 2 colleagues of his came, but they couldn't do much and left quickly. 2 months later, I woke to splashing sounds. I got up and looked out my window. The sound was coming from the pool, but I couldn't see it because of trees blocking my view. I assumed it was just a problem with the pump, which wasn't uncommon, so I went back to bed. But the sound grew louder and more intense. I went into the living room, which gave me a view of the entire garden. I saw the same man from before, standing in our pool, draining it with a small cup. Yes, literally throwing water onto the grass with a cup. His eyes had a dead stare, like he didn't even know what he was doing. When he noticed me watching him, he just smiled before diving under the water, as if that was his way of escaping. I woke up my dad, who immediately called the police. They arrived quickly, but left just as fast, since they didn't find anything except an empty pool. They said he was probably homeless and just washing himself, but I'm certain he was doing more than that. By August of 2018, I started noticing strange cars parked in front of our house. If someone noticed them, they would drive off. My parents left me alone one weekend to attend my uncle's birthday. I didn't want to go, so I stayed home. I got bored in the big house and invited some friends over to hang out. They arrived around 7 p.m., and we drank some wine and listened to music. Around 11 p.m., we heard knocking on the living room window. At first, I thought I imagined it, but my friends looked at me as if to ask if I was expecting someone. I turned off the music, but all we heard was silence. I switched on the patio lights, and one of my friends suddenly shouted, "Hey, someone's running." I didn't see anyone, but I heard the gate slam shut. I was worried but didn't call the police since they had never been able to do anything before. I was just glad my friends had been drinking and would have to stay over, so I wouldn't be alone that night. The next day, Saturday, my friends left around 5 p.m. I was in my room when I heard something fall in my bathroom. I walked toward it and froze when I saw a person standing right behind the door. They didn't notice me, so I went back to my room to get my phone and call the police and my parents. I wanted to go downstairs since the lock on my door was broken. As I passed the bathroom, the person was still there. I opened my camera and took a picture as proof for my family and friends. I didn't think about the flash. When I took the photo, the light illuminated the bathroom and the door slammed shut. I took that as my chance to abandon the house entirely. I ran outside and called the police. They arrived within 10 minutes, went inside, and came out with the same man who had been terrorizing my family and me for over a year, half naked. They said he had been sitting in our bathtub, staring at the drain, repeatedly saying, "The cult elderly will eliminate you." Now, I'm sitting in my room writing this story, worrying about the cult he mentioned. Were the suspicious cars part of it, or was he just insane? None of it makes sense, but my family and I are moving in December. Thank God. Hi everyone. This incident happened about 5 years ago. It's a story I rarely tell anymore because most people are either uncomfortable hearing it or offer well-meaning comments about what I should have done, without understanding how differently your mind works when you're experiencing absolute panic. But you guys seem to get it. So, here's my story. I was living in a relatively nice apartment in downtown Memphis, working as an ophthalmic technician. I arrived home from work at my usual time, around 4:30 p.m., unlocked my door, and went inside. I set my phone, wallet, and keys on the kitchen island, hearing my heavy metal front door swing shut loudly behind me, and began taking care of some errands around the house. Having grown up in a small town, it was habit for me to not lock my door during the day, especially when I knew my husband would be home soon anyway. I've never forgotten to lock my door once in the 5 years since this day. I walked through my bathroom into my large walk-in closet and began hanging up the laundry. I'd started earlier before work. My front door opened, and I smiled with surprise. My husband was home a little early, and I happily called out to him, "I'm in here, love." I was met with silence and slowly began to feel that sinking feeling of something is wrong crawl up my spine. I tried to shake it off, thinking my husband simply hadn't heard me, and walked out into my living room/kitchen area. Standing on the other side of my kitchen island was a complete stranger. He was male, older than me. I would estimate 50s, though it's hard to recall exact features from that moment, and was just standing there, staring at me. No ski mask, no weapon, just watching. At first, I wondered if he'd accidentally walked into the wrong apartment and was about to apologize and leave. But as he continued to stare, I realized I needed to do something other than gape at this stranger in my home. I stood taller, puffed up my chest in an attempt to look more threatening, which is hard to do as a small female, and used a loud, clear voice, telling him to get out of my apartment, that he had no business being there. He completely ignored me, like I hadn't spoken. Then he began to pick up my things, my cell phone, my keys, my wallet, methodically putting them into his own pockets. That's when it truly hit me that this person was dangerous. I'd been naive enough to think this was all a mistake until that moment. I darted toward the only other device I had that could get help, my computer. I had to take a few steps closer to the intruder to reach it, but there were still about 12 to 15 feet between us, so I figured I could grab it and run before he caught me. As I picked it up and turned to run, I saw him start to move after me, so I sprinted back toward the bathroom. It was the only place I could go, and put 2 locked doors between us, the bathroom door and the closet door. I slammed and locked the first door, and within seconds I heard him messing with it, trying to open it. I ran into the closet and locked that door too, opening my computer and getting on Facebook Messenger to contact my husband. I sent message after message, pleading with him to call 911 and tell them there was an intruder in the apartment. He got the messages within minutes and assured me he had a dispatcher on the phone and was leaving work to get to me if he could. I waited and waited. The bathroom door opened and the intruder came inside. He moved to the closet door and started trying to break it down too. Here's the part where people usually give me advice on how I should have acted, but all I can tell you is that I was frozen, with fear, with shock. I don't know. I didn't scream or cry or search for a weapon in that dark closet. I didn't brace the door or try to hold it closed. I just kneeled there and waited to die, because I truly believed that's what was going to happen. People like to say, "You lived in an apartment. Surely if you'd screamed, someone would have heard you." Or, "Surely there was something heavy enough in your closet to defend yourself." Even the laptop I had could have been swung at him. But why didn't I do anything? I don't have an answer. Miraculously, the closet door held. I heard frustrated footsteps retreat into the living area. Things started breaking, bottles shattering, drawers and cabinets being yanked open, their contents flung out. I sat in the closet, silently crying, wanting to run, but feeling certain death was inevitable. I feel awful about my selfishness in that moment, but I messaged my mom, who lived a 15-hour drive away, and told her what was happening. I wanted comfort, and I wanted to tell her how much I loved her. I can only imagine the fear and helplessness she must have felt, knowing her daughter was in danger, and she couldn't help. She messaged me constantly, begging me to keep replying. I told her I would, as long as I could, but I also told her to tell my brothers I loved them, and to help my husband through whatever happened next, if it ended badly. The intruder started messing with the closet door again, mumbling disjointed words I couldn't understand. I remember hoping the police would arrive before my husband, so he wouldn't be the one to find me in whatever state the invader left me. The front door opened again. It was my husband, shouting for me. The intruder walked toward the living room/kitchen area, where the front door was. I bolted from the closet to find my husband on the ground with him, pinning him in place. The man kept mumbling, sometimes yelling, but never put up much resistance. This part is a blur. I mostly remember feeling fear for my husband. Eventually, the police arrived. It took them about 25 minutes from the time my husband dialed 911 to get there, which still shocks me. I know time moves slowly during terrifying situations, but it truly was 25 minutes. I'm not saying this to bash them. It just felt like an unusually long response for a home invasion. They recovered my belongings from the man and escorted him out of my apartment. I numbly went through the process of filing a police report. One of the officers commented that I should really keep my door locked at all times. At the time, I felt like he was blaming me, but later I realized he was speaking from experience. He's probably seen situations like this and far worse. Within 30 minutes, the scariest event of my life was over, but I've carried the fear, the violation, and the anxiety of someone intruding into my space for years. If it happened once, it could happen again. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Till next time.